Pesachim, Chav Gimel, Amud Aleph, Dirshu Amud Yom. Just to recap what we've been saying now for the last few days. There's a machloket Rav Chizda and Rabbi Abahu. When the Torah says lo tochal, what does that mean? Does that mean that only you're not allowed to eat? A little recap. Or does it all that? Of course it means. Or does it also mean you can have benefits? Lo tochal. So don't eat it and don't benefit from it. Don't sell something to have money to be able to benefit from it. Don't give it to your neighbor. Don't give it to your animal. Don't give it to a goy. Don't paint your house with it. So is that what it means? Or does it mean both or does it mean one? Rabbi Abahu means it means both. And Cheskia means it only means one. It only means lo tochal. Okay? So any language of not eating for Rabbi Abahu means everything is forbidden. Good? Rabbi Abahu. Cheskia says no. Only if it says lo ye'acher, it means you can't do anything with it. No benefit, no eating. But if it says lo tochal, lo yuchlu, lo tuchlu, all that, the only problem is not eating. And we're going through all the different places in Torah where it says like this and says like this. Just to tell you one more thing, is that the Torah clearly gives an exception to this rule for Rabbi Abahu. Even it says lo tochal kol nevela, don't eat a trefa. It says over there you could sell it to a goy or you could give it to a ger toshav. A ger toshav is a goy that's living in Eretz Yisrael that accepted himself not to do avodah zarah and do the 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach. From here, listen well, Rabbi Abahu says that we know that everywhere else it's forbidden to benefit. What if when I tell you, don't eat nevela, give it to a goy, sell it to a goy. So that means that every other place where it says lo tochal, you can't. Only in this case where it says lo tochal, you can give it to a goy. That's why it needs to be singled out. So we have a rule across the board. Nevela is allowed to benefit from for Rabbi Abahu. Nevela is allowed to be used for Rabbi Abahu, and trefa is allowed to be used. All the other things where it says lo tuchal is not allowed to be used. Got it? And now we're going to question that a few times. We've been questioning this all different places. So let's look at on Chav Gimel Amud Aleph on the. Let's say first line. The first one in the line is Tirumatchem. It's about 10, 11 lines down, and then the last two words is Ve'arei Nazir. Okay, you guys got it? Nelson, you have it? Next to the Tosfot Kotzer l'Shachet, it says Ve'arei Nazir. Chav Gimel Amud Aleph. God, you have it? Yep. Show. Yeah, Natan? Ve'arei Nazir, the Gemara says, the Rachamana Amar, Mechal Tzanim v'adzag lo yochal. You are not allowed to eat even the skin of a grape when a person is a Nazir. When a person took upon himself not to become a Nazir, he's not allowed to eat Mechal Tzanim v'adzag lo yochel. He's not allowed to eat. So, and the Mishnah, that's okay. So that we would assume that according to Rabbi Abahu, you're not allowed to have benefit from it. The problem is, it's written, Vitnan, me'arivin nazir beyain. If you want to do part of an eruv, so let's say now you want to nishtatef an eruv. Let's say there's a lot of different chatzerot, and everybody needs to give a little bit to be, make a one big community. You're allowed to give wine. A nazir is allowed to give wine. Or let's say eruv etchumin. This is my city. I want to get to this city, so I can put my eruv over here and can have an extra 2,000 amot. I'm allowed to put wine if I'm a nazir. So you just told me lo yochel means don't eat and don't benefit, but I'm putting it over here. I'm benefiting from the wine. So how will Rabbi Abahu answer that? So the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Ashi. No, Amar Rav Zutra. I'm sorry, Amar Rav Zutra. Shanei atam de'amakra nizro. There the pasuk says nizro. Look at the pasuk Dalet on the Torah. Oh, kol yemei nizro mikol asher yaseh migefen hayayin hatzinim hatzag lo yochen. Since there's an extra ribui in the pasuk with the ser, it says nizro kol yemei nizro. Everything that your nizirut, meaning you're allowed to own it. Since the Torah phrases it in a way of nizro, that means you're allowed to have benefit to the exclusion. So here's another exception to the rule. That was the opinion of Mar Zutra. Rav Ashi amar kadosh yeh gadel pera sarosho. Gidolo kadosh v'endvarcha kadosh. So now you know that a nazir, and the next pasuk also says, look at it, hey, kol yemei neder nizro tar lo yavor ad rosho. So long as he's a nazir, he can't cut his hair. Ad milot hayamim asher yazid Hashem, until he finishes the time that he decides he's a nazir. And then it says, Kadosh yeh. His hair is off limit, it's Kadosh. Gadel pera sar rosho. You know, his hair can't benefit from it. The hair is Kadosh. The hair, you got to bring it, I think, to the Mizbeach, even, you can't use it. So you see that Rav Ashi is saying, the hair is Kadosh, and nothing else is Kadosh. His wine is not Kadosh. The Gemara doesn't like that. Does it say that in the Pasuk? Is there any indication to exclude the hair, to exclude the wine? There's no indication. It's just telling you this is Kadosh. It's not telling you this is not Kadosh, therefore he throws it away, and it doesn't accept that. Ela marvata kederemar zutra. So really we go with Mar Zutra. And the bottom line is that even though Rabbi Abahu says, when it says don't eat, you can't benefit, there's an exception when it comes to a zag, when it comes to wine for a nazir, because the pasuk says, nizro, it's yours, you can benefit. The Gemara says, Barich Chadash, Raman Amar, Velechem Vikari Kamel Lo Tochlu Ad Etzem Hayom Hazeh. You know, there's a mitzvah of Chadash. That means all of the new harvest, you're not allowed to eat it for Pesach. So anything we're going to cut in these months right now, for example, Cheshvan, Tibet, you're going to cut some wheat over there. Tishrei, you're going to cut the wheat. You can't eat it until Pesach. That's called Chadash. So what is included in that? Lechem, Vikani, Kamel, different types of wheats. Lo tochlu, you're not allowed to eat them at etzem hayom hazeh until the second day of Pesach when you bring the omer. The Gemara says v'tanan kotzer leshachet umachid v'ma. There's two permissions over here. If it hasn't reached a full growth, you're allowed to cut it. Number one, you're allowed to cut it, and second, you're allowed to give the food to the animal. So even though you can't eat chadash, so you're a farmer, you have wheat, you cut it, it's now a dag. Only next month you're going to be allowed to eat it. You have animals, you want to feed it with you, you're allowed to feed your animals. So this is again a problem on Rabbi Abahu, because the pasuk says, Lo tochlu, don't eat it, and still you're allowed to give it to your animal. According to Rabbi Abahu, when we said don't eat it, it's including the prohibition that you can't have benefit, and here you're having a clear benefit by giving it to your animal. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Shmaya, Shani Atam, Damakra, Kitzirchem. Kitzirchem Shedachem Yeh. So the pasuk says Kitzirchem. Let's read it again. What it says over here in Zion. Look at Zion. Dabar bnei Yisrael mamad lehem kitavu al haaretz Hashem nitem lehem kitzartem et kitzira ve'avet et omer reshit kitzirchem in HaKohen. You will bring your kitzira to the Kohen. From here, even though lo tuchlu means don't benefit, here we add another word to tell you're allowed to benefit from it. And what does Cheskia do with that? Because don't forget, Cheskia says lo tuchlu means just don't eat. You're allowed to have benefit. So why would the pasuk need to say Kitzirchem? We already know it. So he says, no, that's the way the Torah speaks. It says Kitzirchem v'idach Kitzirchem dekod Yisrael mashma. That's really just talking about the Jewish people's ownership on the Kitzirah. It's not singling out the individual that he's an owner. The Gemara says, V'arish chatzim. So you have little rodents, little bugs, you're not allowed to eat them. Sheketz hu lachem lo yochal. Let's read the pasuk over here together. Please look into Torah. וכל השורץ על הארץ, שקץ הוא, לא יאכל. If you have a sheretz, you can't eat it. And here it says, lo ya'chen. Don't forget what I said. Even according to Cheskia, when it says, lo ya'chen, it's including benefit. So Rabbi Abahu says all languages of eating. Cheskia says only lo ya'chen means don't benefit, but everything else means benefit. So even here, even according to Cheskia, it says lo ya'chen. So the shekets, these little rodents, these bugs, you're not to eat them, and you shouldn't be allowed to benefit from them.
So okay, we can't even give it to another animal.
It sounds to be like that. That sounds like the way we would be learning, according to the rule you've told us. You catch a little rodent, a little mouse, a little sheretz, a little bug. You can't do a little lizard. You can't do anything with it. The Gemara says vitnan, and we have a braita. Let's say you are hunting and you're trying to catch birds, kosher fish. And now instead of catching a fish, you catch a little reptile. So what are you allowed to do with that? You're allowed to sell to a goy. If you told me lo yachen, should be like David saying you're allowed to give it sell to a goy, give it to an animal. So how does Rabbi Abahu explain that? Shani atam damakra lachem shelachem. The pasuk says, let's read it again. It says, where did it say that? Which pasuk? Yeah, pasuk tet in Torah. Kol sheretz haoref haolech al ha'arba sheketzu lachem. It's a sheketzu lachem. It could have just said
sheketzu lo yachel.
Look at pasuk tet.
Yeah.
Pasuk tet.
Oh, tet.
Only the lo yachel is lachem.
It's on eating.
Yeah.
Kol sheretz haoref haolech al ha'arba sheketzu lachem. When it says sheket, it means it's disgusting. Put it aside. It's put away. It's
Repulsive.
repulsive. So why does it say lachem? Sheketzu, which could say. Sheketzu lachem says yes, you can't eat, but you're allowed to benefit. You're allowed to benefit. So the Gemara says,
Yeah.
Damakra, the Gemara says, if that's so, iachi afilu lechatchila. So why is this Mishnah always saying, if you went to catch fish and you caught a lizard? Why are you telling me that? Tell me I can catch lizards and sell them. I want to do a business with lizards. I want to do a business with some rodents. Not allowed to. Only b'diavad if I caught them. If it's allowed, if it's lachem, I should be allowed lechatchila. So the Gemara says, like, the pasuk says, Shaniacha damakra yu, v'avatyan yu. Let's read pasuk yu together. Sheketz yu lachem, mibisaram lo tochlu. Sheketz yu. You know what it means, yu? V'avatant yu. They got to stay as they are. So here it's really interesting. There is a yu saying you shouldn't do it lechatchila, and there's a lachem saying you can do it b'diavad. So really, it's very, very interesting halakha. When it comes to non-kosher rodents like this, you're allowed b'diavad to sell them. You're not allowed lechatchila to sell them. And you know what that means? It means you can't do business lechatchila with things that are non-kosher.
You can't open a non-kosher restaurant because you might feed a Jew as well.
That's one thing. But
that's the idea.
Yes, the idea is you're too close to comfort with it, and eventually there's going to be a problem. Either you yourself or somebody else might eat it. It's not Isur Bana. That means b'diavad, if you got a shipment. You know, the guy buys on Amazon. This is what it came up. Or sometimes you buy a lot. Or somebody gave it to you as a payment. So the guy came and paid you what he owes you with all these crabs. What are you going to do with them? Can't do anything with them, so sell them.
Sell them to goy.
Sell them to a goy. B'diavad. So it's really interesting. Lo yachel means, it says, really it should mean don't benefit. But it says lachem, you're allowed to. But you're not allowed to. So the lachem is, you're allowed to. But you is lechatchila, no. And b'diavad, yes. The Gemara says, Uricheskia, that's very good for Rabbi Abahu. Uricheskia, lama nini nichtav, lo yochal, umaiti lachem. Nimishraya, lo nichtav rachamana, lo yochal, velo mai lachem. Really interesting for Cheskia. Cheskia says, what did we just say? We said, lo yachem means don't benefit, and then you give me a permission to benefit with lachem. Just write me, lo tochal. The Torah shows what to write over here for for the animal, for the shekets.
No, lo tochal limits you to only eating.
Yes.
It doesn't explain to you that you can benefit.
Very nice. Let's think about it for a second. So the shekets, what's the halakha bottom line for Cheskia? Don't eat it, but you could sell it b'diavad, right? So how? But the Torah could have chosen the way of saying don't eat it. Could have said lo tochal. If you say lo tochal, then you know that you're allowed to sell it, because he only includes for Cheskia. Lo tochal is only eating. There's no problem with hana. No, he tells you lo yachen isurna, and then we give you the heter of lachem. Why do you do that? Why do you need to tell me forbidden and tell me mutar? Just tell me lo tochal. Actually, he says this is the place where he learns from. My place where I learn from is actually from here. In other words, we need one place where we learn the rule. For example, here I'm going to tell you lo yachen, and I'm going to write a pasuk lachem. So that teaches you, why did you need to tell me lachem if it's lo yachen? It must be that lo yachen means you can't benefit. But here you can benefit. That means every other place where you're going to have lo yachen, you're not going to be allowed to benefit. So here is actually the place where he learns out his rule to all the other places. Got it? Mm-hmm. The Gemara says weiter. Ve'arei chametz. Okay, I want to know this rule of lo yachen. Cheskia and Rabbi Abahu, lo yachen means no benefit. I have a problem. Ve'arei chametz, the Rachmana mer, lo yachen chametz. Chametz, it says lo yachen. So if I ask you now the rule according to Cheskia, it should be lo yachen means don't have benefit. And we know the rule. Betanya, Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer, tameh al atzmecha, ech chametz asur be'ana kol shiva. Rabbi Yossi says you're allowed to benefit from chametz. That's not the halakha. But there's Rabbi Yossi Aglili says that chametz on Pesach you're allowed to benefit from it.
You said last week that some products are made of chametz, you can benefit from them, even drink it.
If it's ruined, it's not called chametz anymore.
If it's ruined, that means
what is chametz? Chametz is edible.
Yeah, so this is not.
So
edible.
if it's not edible, it's not called chametz. That's not what we're talking about here. Rabbi Yossi Aglili is saying chametz you can benefit. Real beer you can't drink it, but you can use it to take a bath. Real chametz you can light your fire with it.
What do you mean?
It's not the halakha. It's Rabbi Yossi Aglili's opinion.
On Pesach?
On Pesach, yes.
Nice beer bath.
A beer bath. Or you want to light your fire. You have some bagels. You're gonna put your bagel on fire. You're gonna.
David with the guitar.
Oh my God, with the guitar, yeah.
Or guitar.
It's
Another movie, huh?
no, that movie.
What do we see over here? So this is not the halakha, but either way, this is a problem for Rabbi Yossi Aglili, because since it says lo yachen, and if you told me, Rabbi Abahu and Cheskia, that the word lo yachen means no benefit, how could there be a Tana before you that says you're allowed to benefit from chametz? In other words, Rabbi Yossi Aglili is 2,000 years ago. Rabbi Abahu and Cheskia are 1,600 years ago. How could they come and say that the word lo yachen means you're not allowed to benefit, according to everybody? Here I have Rabbi Yossi Aglili says, even though it's not the halakha, you're allowed to benefit from chametz, even though it says lo yachen. So it must be your rule, your definition of the word is not a true definition. So the Gemara answers, it's different there. Shaneatam damakra velo yirae lechaseo shilchaye. Really, lo yirae means you can't benefit. But here there's a pasuk that says you're allowed to benefit, according to Rabbi Yossi Aglili. And what is that? Lo yirae lechaseo. By the way, it says lo yirae lechaseo, lo yirae lecha chametz. What does it mean? Lo yirae lecha. You can't. It's yours. Lo yirae lecha chametz. Chametz is yours. You're allowed to own it. So don't see it, but you're allowed to own it, and you're allowed to benefit from it. Okay, that's Rabbi Yossi Aglili learns from the word lecha. The Rabbanan say, what do they do with the word shelcha? Shelcha yatareh, but atareh shel achrim, v'shel gavoa. So Chachamim say chametz is asur be'ana. Why? Because the pasuk says lo yachen. So what do they do with the word lecha? It's not coming to permit hana. It's coming to say, yeah, in your house you can't own your chametz, but a goyish chametz or the chametz of the Beit Hamikdash shel gavoa you're allowed to own. So don't forget, like I told you, that if you're in your office and you have a goyish employee and you own the building and he's eating his lunch, there's no problem. Let him eat his office. Shelcha yatarev. So that's what he does with the word lecha. How does Rabbi Yossi learn that? Vidach. How does Rabbi Yossi know that halacha? The pasuk says tre lecha ktive. Yeah, it's written lecha twice. So Rabbi Yossi will use one lecha for benefit and one lecha that you can't see yours, but you can see somebody else's. Vidach. But what about Chachamim? They have it twice also. Chad benochi shekivashto. There's two types of goyim. One goyim that is subservient to you, and one goy that is not subservient to you. One goy that you have no control over him, and one goy that listens to you, your slave, or a ger toshav. A ger toshav that's living in Israel, he listens to you. So maybe you're going to have a problem of him having chametz, because that's more underneath you. Even that's mutar, because it says lecha twice. Veidach, what is Rabbi Yossi? How do you learn that? Tilata kitiv. It's written actually 3 times. Kitiv. It's written 3 times. Lo yirad chametz, lo yichas seor, lo yichas chametz. It's written again. So it's written 3 times. So Rabbi Yossi will learn 1 time that you can benefit from chametz, 1 time that you can see a goyish chametz that's not subservient, and 1 time you can see goyish chametz that is subservient. You're allowed to. But what do Chachamim? Chachamim use all 3 for seeing chametz. And Chachamim say, no, I need 1 for seor and I need 1 for chametz. What is seor? Seor is the leavening agent. It's yeast. You know, you can buy that yeast. That's not, you can't eat that. Mm-hmm. So it's and then there's actually chametz, which is bread, but that doesn't make things leaven. So you need 2 times a pasuk to permit that you can see goyish things, because you might not have known one for the other. Because on one hand, chametz is edible, but it doesn't make something rise. On the other one makes it rise. So you wouldn't learn one for the other. So therefore, it's a machlokes Chachamim and Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Lecha, lecha, lecha. There's written 3 times. Rabbi Chachamim will use it 3 times to say you're allowed to see somebody else's chametz, and Rabbi Yossi is going to use only 2 times and 1 time to say you can benefit. Again, we have not broken anybody's opinion. Again, the word lo yached over here could definitely mean no benefit. Here's an exception to rule for Rabbi Yossi Aglili. The Gemara says leima ketenai. So now, what we really want to do is we want to go see the word lo tochal. So let's just review what we said till now. Lo yachel, according to everybody, means don't have benefit. Yes, God? Lo tochlu is a machloket. Only Rabbi Abahu says you can't benefit. But Rabbi Cheskia says you can benefit. Good? So now we're going to try, these Cheskia and Rabbi Abahu are Amoraim. But we're going to try to source this in the Tanaim. We would always love to do that. Let's say God comes and says, an Amorah comes and says something. Where do you know that from? It's you're making this up on your own? Where do you know it from? If I can show you that it's already written subtly in the words of the Tanaim, that would be the best way. Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, even though they didn't say it specifically, if we can understand in their words this machloket you're saying, that would be great. So really, I'm just coming and reiterating a machloket here and here. There's machloket Chabad in Breslev, okay, in something, but it's not written anywhere. You can see in Ikut Emran how he understands this. You can see in the Tanya how he understands this, and then me and you were just talking about an old machloket. That would be the best thing to do, to say it's an early machloket. We're going to go now into another Mishnah Braita and try to see if that machloket already exists over there. We're going to say it doesn't, but we're going to try to. Leima kitanae yaseh lekol menacha. Let's read this pasuk together. Pasuk mem. Daber b'nei Yisrael nemo kol chelev shor v'kesev va'ez lo tuchlu. We're talking about fat over here. There's different types of fat in the animal. There is fats which are permitted to eat in, and there are fats which are permitted. We don't know this because we buy everything ready at the butcher. Everything comes, turnkey. Everything is good to go. But really, the butchers and in the slaughterhouse, they know this one you give to the goy, this one is Jewish one. So we cut it off and we get rid of it. Not only you can't eat it. Okay. Now the pasuk says lo tuchlu. It says lo tuchlu. Now this is an independent machloket. We're going to try and say it's the same machloket. But now the pasuk says in mem, and continue the pasuk, v'chelev nevela, v'chelev trefa yaseh lekol menacha, v'achol lo tochluhu. But you can do kol menacha with it. What is that word kol menacha? So the chelev, you're allowed to do kol menacha. Okay, let's read this together. The Gemara says, Mata munomar yaseh kol menacha. Mata munomar lekol menacha. Why does the Torah need to say you're allowed to do menacha with chelev? Shiachol, you might have thought, le'meracha gavoa yemutar, le'merachet hedjot yasu. You might have thought when the Torah says, if the Torah would only give permission to do meracha with chelev, you might have thought only in the Beit HaMikdash. But if for a regular layman outside the Beit HaMikdash, you might not have done it. What's a meracha we could do with fats? Sometimes you need leather and you need to smear it, make it smooth. You put the fat on top of it. So you might have thought you can only do meracha in the Beit HaMikdash, but you can't do meracha outside the Beit HaMikdash. Why would you have thought in the Beit HaMikdash you could do meracha? Because actually, there's a permission to bring chelev on the mizbeach. When they bring a korban, even though a regular Jew can't eat the chelev, he's allowed to bring in the korban on the mizbeach. So if it would have said you're allowed to do melacha, you might have thought, the same way you can do it, and you can use it in the Beit Mikdash. You can eat it in the Beit Mikdash. I mean, you could put on the Beit Mikdash. The mizbeach could eat it by burning it up. It's like a korban. You can also do menacha in the Beit Mikdash. That's why it needs to say kol menacha. You can even do menacha outside the Beit Mikdash. That is the opinion of Divrei Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Rabbi Akiva Omer shiachol no. Shiachol lemenachat hedjot yemutao lemenachat gavoa yetameh. You might have thought, no, there's no problem of doing menacha at all. Menacha is completely always mutar from these fats. But you might have thought it's tameh. It's tameh in the Beit Mikdash, and it's not tameh, or meaning permissible, outside the Beit Mikdash. And I'll explain. Usually a nevela is tameh by definition. Is that correct? A nevela, we haven't spoken about this. Oh, actually we did. It's a rishon. Like a dead carcass is, what is it? It's a av. A dead carcass is an av. So the fat is also tameh, or it's not tameh? So a dead carcass outside the Beit Mikdash is tameh. So the fat is also tameh. And the fat in the Beit Mikdash is tameh. You can't do any menacha with it. You can't bring it in and use it for smearing or doing anything. So you might have thought that. That's why it says lekol menacha. It's not tameh. It's not tameh whatsoever. It's not tameh here, not tameh here. That's the way Rabbi Akiva learns it. Divrei Rabbi Akiva omer shiachol lemenachet hedjot yetaro. מנחת גבוה יהיה טמא, תלמוד לומר לכל מלאכה. ורבי יוסי הגלילי, לטומאה ולטהרה לא יצטרך קרא. כי יצטרך קרא לאיסור להתר, ורבי עקיבא איסור בהתר לא צריך קרא, כי יצטרך קרא לטומאה וטהרה. So according to Rabbi Yossi, you don't need one for טומאה וטהרה, and according to Rabbi Akiva, you need one for טומאה וטהרה. The Gemara says, my love. Now we're going to try to analyze. בהקם מפגנה, can't we say that this machloket is the Rabbi Yossi Agdidi Sabar lo tochlu mashma ben isur achila ben isur hana'ah. We can find that Rabbi Yossi, when he said you need a heter to give melacha, because the word lo tochlu takes away all the permission of melacha. Ben isur achila ben isur hana'ah. B'ki'at akra mishraya nevila behana'ah. So when the pasuk is coming to give a heter, it's coming to give a heter for hana'ah, hu de'ata. ורבי עקיבא סבר, איסור אכילה משמע, איסור הנאה לא משמע. בקיעת הקרא לטומאה וטהרה. So, look, what did we just say? Let's review. We have a pasuk of chelev is you're not to eat it. And it says we can do kol menacha. Says Rabbi Yossi, you can do kol melacha in the Beit Mikdash, outside the Beit Mikdash, everywhere. Rabbi Akiva says you don't need a pasuk for that. It's just to teach you Tumah B'Tahara. Very good. So we found that the word lo tochlu, Boker Tov, the word lo tochlu means according to Rabbi Yossi, no melacha. And we need to give a heifer a heter of doing melacha. And Rabbi Akiva means lo tochlu. It's like no, it just means don't eat it. So the pasuk is coming to tell you Tumah B'Tahara. So we found the source in the Tanaim. The Gemara says lo. No, it's not true. Lo. Dekuli anma lo tochlu mashma benisur merchila benisur ana. Rabbi Abahu will answer it's not true. Lo tuchlu means no benefit at all. Ve'achas, what's the machloket over here? Be'akam mipalgi. Rabbi Yossi Agdili Sava keshutra nevelahi hi utra chelba bigida lo hutra. I'll explain. I told you at the beginning of the class that yes, the pasuk says lo toched kol nevela, but you can give it to a goy, right? So even though lo toched according to Rabbi Abahu means no benefit, you can give the nevela to a goy. You're allowed to benefit. Is chelev nevela or it's not nevela? The sinew, the gid and asher. We spoke about this. Where was it here on Shabbat? The gid and asher and the cherev. Is that part of the permission of the nevela or it's not? Is that when the Torah says you can benefit from the nevela? Is that also the fat and also the gid or it's not? And Rabbi Yossi Agilili says it's not. Lo hutra. Yeah, so now we're giving another pasuk to permit the fats. Fat is not meat. Meat is meat. Fat is not meat. By the way, even the gid, we're going to say, some say it doesn't taste like anything. So if the gid doesn't taste like anything, you can't say it's the heter of the nivena. The Torah allows you to benefit from the nivena. It won't allow you to benefit from the cherev. Here's the pasuk to say that we're allowed to benefit from the cherev. Rabbi Akiva sava kishutra nivena chelba v'gida nami utra. And Rabbi Shimon says, Rabbi Akiva says, that when we permit the nivena, we permit also the chelev. So if there's an extra pasuk over here, it's coming to tell you that it's even tahor in the Beit Mikdash. We take away the problem of tuma on a fat. Let's just repeat this one more time. Yeah, you guys got it? Say it one more time. God, you got it? You good? One more time. Okay. We have a machloket chesk and Rabbi Abahu. What do we do with the word lo tochlu? Does that include just eating, or whenever the Torah says don't eat, it also includes benefits? Machloket Rabbi Abahu's benefits, and Cheske says only eating. We would like to source this higher up. It would be much easier for us, because then we'd have rules. Who do we go with, Rabbi Akiva or Rabbi Yossi? And we found another machloket where the Torah says chelev is lo tochlu, and then it says, but you can do kol melacha. Sounds to be giving a permission. So that would sound very good. By the way, who says we're giving a permission of melacha? Rabbi Yossi Agilili. And Rabbi Akiva says you don't need any permission of melacha. You just need a permission of tahara. That would be really good to say it's the machloket. Rabbi Yossi, lo tochlu means don't eat, don't benefit. And here the Torah says you can do melacha. So that would sound like Rabbi Abahu. And Rabbi Akiva says, no, lo tochlu means just don't eat. And you're allowed to do benefit. So what does the extra pasuk call melacha? It's talking about Tumah B'Tahara. So that would be really good to place these two machloket. But the Gemara says no. Really, we could say that they both hold that lo tochlu means don't have benefit. Even Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva both say lo tochlu means no benefit. So why is the Torah saying that lekol melacha over here? Well, it depends. We know that you cannot benefit from things that says lo tochlu except nevela. Nevela clearly says lo tochal. Give it to a goy, sell it to a ger, sell it to a goy, give it to a ger. So you cannot benefit. Very good. The question, Machlokes Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Akiva, is fat included in the permission of selling the animal? I can sell the animal. Can I sell the fat also? When I sell to the ger, do I need to take off the fat? Says Rabbi Yossi, you got to take off the fat. It's not included. Here we say it's included. Lekol menacha. So when we spoke about fat, we give you a separate, because fat is not meat. We're asking a question. Is fat part of the meat or it's not part of the meat? Rabbi Yossi says it's not part, so you need another pasuk to permit the fat. And Rabbi Akiva says fat is part of the meat. You don't need a pasuk. So if we have a pasuk, it's coming to tell you Tumah B'Tahara. Really, a carcass is tameh, but the fat is not tameh. So it's really interesting. According to Rabbi Akiva, meat is meat for selling purposes. Fat is meat for selling purposes, but it's not fat. It's not meat for Tumah B'Tahara purposes.